Viv didn't notice anything unusual about the tree stand. Not at first. The wind blew an early November chill through her body, and she wished for a moment she'd brought a jacket. She hadn't planned on staying up in the stand so long. Sighing, she pushed herself up from the knotted pine floorboards and rubbed the goosebumps beneath the sleeves of her Twisted Pines high school sweatshirt. The chill was nothing, really. All those motionless hours spent here with Aunt Elle every winter had lessened her skin's sensitivity to anything but the roughest cold. Still, this was the first icy wind of the season, and the first one, as Elle had always reminded her, bit the deepest. Viv's eyes flicked to the bench on the left side of the stand, half expecting to find Elle in her usual spot, but there was only a leaf. The wind swelled, and the leaf skidded across the empty bench before sliding back down to the browning earth. Enough, Viv told herself. For the first time since arriving some hours before, she grabbed her compound bow from where it leaned in the corner and nocked an arrow. Although deer season was in full swing and she supplied several families' venison stores, she hadn't come to the forest to hunt. Today, as she'd done so often for the past several months, she'd come only for Elle. Even so, she should at least practice. Viv pulled an arrow back, letting the tip of her nose brush the bowstring as she sighted. Let your body steady. Slowly, she moved her index finger to the trigger, eyes locked on the poplar tree 30 yards away. Trust yourself. She heard the words so plainly in her mind, it was almost like Elle was there beside her again. Viv pulled the trigger. There was a soft whoosh, and then the arrow was buried in the target, probably 4 inches deep in the center. Viv smiled. She hadn't thought it would feel this way. That first time she had visited the stand after the funeral 3 months ago, she'd thought the space would seem vacant. And it did, in the obvious way. But it also felt the opposite. Elle's steadiness lingered, her energy as tangible in the stand as the boards and nails. It had shocked Viv at first, the energy, because she thought she'd rid herself of that ability long ago. But somehow Elle had disarmed her, and since it was Elle, Viv didn't mind as much. Once Viv discovered Elle's energy, the realness of it and the comforting way it wrapped around her shoulders like a hug, she'd started visiting the stand regularly. Not to hunt. The season hadn't started when she'd first come back here. She went solely to feel better, to feel that she was okay, just as she was. She nocked a second arrow. These days, she needed that feeling more than she cared to admit. A familiar bark came from below. Viv lowered her bow and peered over the side of the stand. Hey, Snick. The small terrier mutt didn't wag his tail in his usual playful greeting. Instead, he yapped again, a sharp, insistent sound. Viv frowned. A few more minutes, okay? Then we'll go, promise. The dog growled. Viv had never seen him act this way, and if she'd had hackles, they'd have raised as high as Snick's. Later, Viv would wonder how her body had known, because instinct was the only thing that explained her next split-second moves. Tossing her cherished $600 bow to the ground and diving for the wooden rungs hammered into the trunk just as a series of small pops punctured the air. At the sounds, Viv didn't even think. She leapt the remaining 8 feet to the muddy ground. Something groaned, then cracked, like ice breaking. And it took Viv a second to understand that the sounds came from the tree. Snick stood several yards away, barking furiously. Viv only made it a few steps before the air split with a thwack. She looked back to see the massive tree dip sideways, groaning hideously. The ground shifted and opened, swallowing a good 3 feet of the trunk and surrounding earth like something out of a horror movie.